I got very lucky in how my courses were set up, so I ended up having Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday completely off every week. So if I ever wanted to go and travel for a short little trip, that was the time that I could do it. I did that a couple of times each semester, particularly when I went to Scotland and Poland and Denmark. And because the course load in Birmingham is so light, it's only 3 classes for a full course load, I found that it was really easy to get caught up on my schoolwork and have a lot of free time in order to travel and sometimes work on schoolwork in other countries.
I personally was able to take a lot of time away from studying to explore during my term abroad. The University of Amsterdam actually doesn't have a lot of class time and puts more emphasis on self-study. So during the second half of the semester, or the second block as they call it, I actually only had 1 day of classes a week. You still need to be careful though, because some classes you'll have a final exam that's worth 100% of your mark. So you still need to make sure that you're being disciplined.
Both Australian university semesters have a 1-week break, study break in between the first and second terms. And so with that week, I was able to go on a little road trip with some friends up north exploring the west coast of Australia. But the beauty of going on exchange to Australia for a full year, a full North American school year, is that their summer break is right smack dab in the middle of the time that you're there. So I had from the end of November all the way till the end of February with no school, no other commitments, and I was able to travel extensively. I spent 3 or 4 weeks on the east coast of Australia, hitting Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, and the east coast, and I also did some other traveling on the west coast as well.
Honestly, just about every weekend. Every opportunity I took, my friends and I would rent a car and go explore a new city for the weekend. I think traveling is really important on your exchange. You're doing it with a really unique group of people in a completely different country. And at least in Europe, everything was really close, so it made traveling very easy and convenient.
I'm actually going to plug 3 apps here because one of my flatmates in the UK who actually did a lot of traveling, he recommended me 3 different apps to use. And by doing that, I was able to find really good deals on hostels and flights and also find things to do in other countries. So I used Skyscanner, Hostel World, and Lonely Planet travel guides. Each is pretty self-explanatory, finding really cheap flights depending on where I wanted to go, finding deals and discounts and ratings on hostels, and the Lonely Planet travel guides definitely helped me decide where I wanted to travel to. So in Paris or in Switzerland, I was wanting to go to an extra city besides Geneva, so I used that app to look into Montreux and into Chamonix, and it definitely helped me kind of plan my travel itineraries better and make the most of my budget and make the most of my exchange.
Domestic flight is relatively cheap in Australia. You can fly from the west coast to the east coast for between $400 and $500 usually, and up and down the east coast, similarly, flights will be anywhere from $100 to $200 maybe. And so these make it definitely very accessible to fly. Within whatever region you find yourself, though, it's very easy to rent cars or even rent little cars with tents on the top for doing a little bit of camping, exploring of the local areas.
One of the things I love most about Europe is how easy it is to get around. Amsterdam and other major cities all have incredible public transport systems, ranging from buses to trams to trains, you name it. It's also very easy to travel to other cities as well as other countries. You can do this by train. You can also do this through some very cheap airlines such as Ryanair or EasyJet. And something unique about Ryanair is that they actually only go to specific locations each weekend. So if you're okay with going somewhere last minute on the cheap, you can check for the weekend coming up and see where Ryanair is going and decide if you want to go there or not. Another really easy way to travel across Europe is through something called BlaBlaCar. This is essentially a carpooling service that's also very cheap.
Part 2, in terms of transportation methods, the cost was pretty much the same between flights and by train. Just of course, a train is going to take 4 hours, whereas a flight is only going to take half an hour. So depending on the type of year, the costs varied. I know that I was able to get a flight to Paris for about the same cost as a train ride to Glasgow. So it really depends. That's why I was able to use the Skyscanner app to determine whether I wanted to take the train or if I was going to fly to a destination.
A standout negative highlight for me was definitely my accommodation. I chose to get accommodation through the university, and I took a little bit too long to decide which building I wanted to go in. So by the time I got around to it, there was only one left, which was called Zouderzeeweg. This building was okay in its location because I was only about 10 minutes away from the center of the city and 15 minutes away from my campus. But I'm not kidding you when I say that the outside looks like a prison, and there are mice rampant in the building. The building managers really don't do much about it, so it's just kind of something I had to deal with. So if I could give you one recommendation, I would definitely say try to get a spot early in any other building other than Zouderzeeweg.
I think it was definitely the fact that in engineering you have to go on your exchange while you're in third year, which means that if you choose to go on exchange, you pretty much relinquish any ability that you have of going on a co-op, which I understand is a pretty valuable experience as well for engineering. So before I went on exchange, I really had to sit down and consider whether or not this was the best thing for me, the thing that I wanted to do more than the other one. And while I don't regret going on exchange, I understand that it's not in everyone's best interest to do that rather than do a co-op.
I think the biggest challenge for me was realizing that I didn't have enough money to do every possible thing that I wanted to do in Perth, but also just in Australia in general. I did a lot of really fun things, did a lot of really fun traveling, but inevitably I couldn't do it all. But I think that only really gave me more motivation to go back very soon to finish off what I started.
So while I was at the University of Birmingham, the university actually went on strike. They went on strike once in first semester and once in the second semester. So I was already taking less classes in Birmingham because the way the credits transfer, you don't need to take as many classes. But because the university was on strike, I was actually only physically in class for about 4 to 5 weeks each semester. So I definitely had to get really good at studying remotely and just watching recorded lectures instead of being there in person, which actually I think might have been beneficial because now in COVID-19, with all of our classes being online, knowing how to stay on task and how to stay focused when learning online is definitely a skill that I am happy that I have.
A standout positive from my exchange would be the people that I met. I just added more members to my family. In the few months that I was in Nottingham, I was able to explore so much more with my friends and my professors. Not only about the place, but about my own interests as well. I had friends who made me try rock climbing, and I never thought that I would enjoy it as thoroughly as I did. And these are still people that I talk to on a regular basis, and I'm absolutely positive that these friendships are for a lifetime.
I think my overall highlight would be getting the opportunity to meet so many different people from both Australia, living in Perth, and people from all over the world, the other international students that I met. I really found I created a really big network of people that from all walks of life in different nations that I would not have otherwise maybe had the access to. So that was cool.
A highlight of my exchange definitely had to be sometime over the Christmas season. I had about a week in Birmingham where I was alone and all of my friends had gone home for the holidays and I was sort of just stuck in Birmingham by myself. So I ended up getting involved with the Birmingham Christmas Shelter, which was a non-profit shelter dedicated to helping out the homeless population in Birmingham. So we were serving meals every day, we were creating gift baskets for them. I actually had the opportunity to perform some of my songs for the shelter, and I met a lot of really awesome people there, some of who are still my close friends today.
There are many standout positive highlights from my term abroad, but I'll just share one. So in September of every year in the Netherlands, the King and Queen actually take part in a royal procession through The Hague, which is the capital city of the Netherlands and about an hour away from Amsterdam by train. So I went to see this procession, and I actually got to see the king and queen and wave to them. So that was super cool.
Dude, it was definitely the people who I met. Like, God, like, the people who I became friends with and the experiences we had together were just, like, really special to me. I'm of the opinion that a moment is only as special as the relationships involved in it. That relationship can be with yourself or with others. And you can have a special moment no matter where you are, no matter what your environmental backdrop is, but a special place combined with some very special people makes for some truly extraordinary moments and memories to accompany. I consider myself lucky now to be just like sitting on my couch sometimes procrastinating, and one of these memories will come to me and just like light up my day.